The best discoveries on Earth aren't sitting in museums waiting to be admired. They're trapped underwater, sealed behind concrete, and buried under somebody's backyard. And today, we've gathered the most jaw-dropping ones to show you. At the famous Operation Market Garden drop zones, World War II diggers unearthed a rare German Luftwaffe helmet, a unique relic from one of the most ambitious airborne operations in 1944. This metal detectorist in the UK struck Viking gold. Silver. Almost a kilogram of hacked silver ingots and bracelet fragments burst from the soil, later officially declared treasure. Magnet fishers stumbled upon a safe sealed with electrical tape, but inside they found a student's wallet and 11 cents submerged in a Florida canal for 8 years since 2015. A drone captured Hungary's legendary Zoka Tiza, a 77-meter paddle-wheeled steamship built in 1917, now a rusting skeleton beached on the Tisza riverbank near Szeged after sinking in 2012. A Belarusian rider pulled a Soviet-era motorcycle out of deep forest leaf cover, and its boxer engine and frame are surprisingly intact despite abandonment in the wild. Diggers unearthing history in West Virginia struck iron when their detectors signaled a heavy target. They pulled a rusted cavalry sword from 20 centimeters of dirt. Exploring the Falklands, hikers stumbled upon a massive iron beast. The 68-meter Lady Elizabeth cargo ship has sat beached in Whalebone Cove since a brutal 1936 storm. Metal detectorists hit the jackpot when their detector went wild over one spot, revealing dozens of Roman bronze coins scattered around just below the surface. Renovators tearing into an 1800s house pulled out perfectly preserved 1930s fashion catalogs from inside the walls, with letters and shoe polish used as original insulation. A family in New Jersey found a warm 10 by 15 centimeter rock on the bedroom floor after it punched through the roof. Scientists confirmed it's a 4.5 billion year old meteorite. On a remote Russian shoreline, an explorer met a completely capsized vessel resting on its side right where test launches of intercontinental ballistic missiles were conducted. This Detroit man was stunned when a softball-sized chunk of ice whistled through the air and smashed a gaping hole in his roof. It was likely a passing plane's waste or condensation system. Digging through a scrap metal pile, a scavenger pulled out a 1929 brass mortar with a hidden Soviet USSR medical badge inside, plus a gleaming antique samovar buried in the same heap. Checking under his dining room floorboards, this homeowner discovered a labyrinth of tunnels beneath the house and emerged miles away at the historic White Works tin mining ruins. Hikers in Vermont found inventor Jamie Mansell's abandoned mountain compound, a hand-built complex with an airplane hangar workshop, robot prototypes, and trampolines, all hauled up the mountain by one man alone. Here, explorers stumbled upon Scala, a 1934 pillbox carved into sheer cliffs. Its twin machine gun nests still overhang the sea, featuring original armored shutters and rusted mounts. How about stumbling upon a decommissioned Titan I missile complex? This subterranean labyrinth features a powerhouse, control dome, and silos equipped with 253,600-liter fuel tanks to survive nuclear strikes. Divers discovered the ghostly wreck of U-1021 resting 52 meters deep. This World War II German submarine was destroyed by a minefield and remains hauntingly preserved in crystal clear water. In an abandoned Russian quarry stands a colossal Soviet-era bucket wheel excavator, a multi-story steel giant left rusting on the sand with its massive boom still reaching across the pit. Instead of a sunken ship, these divers were surprised to discover a military tank covered in coral standing upright on the sandy seabed. In a remote canyon, an adventurer found a cave with dozens of carved niches covering every wall. An ancient pigeon aviary where people once harvested eggs, meat, and droppings for fertilizer. A California couple in their backyard spotted a rusty can in the dirt. Inside were 1,427 gold coins from the 1800s worth $10 million, the largest buried gold hoard ever found in the U.S. Renovators stumbled upon a hidden safe tucked inside a closet wall. After a 5 a.m. rush to open it, the treasure turned out to be just old parts and dust. When loggers cut down an old tree, a Civil War-era cannonball rolled out from deep inside the trunk. The tree had grown completely around it over 150 years. On a New Zealand beach sits the rusted steel frame of a homemade submarine, built by one man who planned to sail it to Antarctica before a prison sentence ended the dream. These rare Cretaceous-era tracks were revealed by a powerful swell, offering a glimpse into the time of carnivorous theropods. Archaeologists unearthed a mysterious bronze Roman dodecahedron with 12 pentagonal faces and round holes. Over 100 have been found across Europe, yet no Roman text ever mentions their purpose. A 3-year-old boy playing near an archaeological site picked up what he thought was a cool rock. Experts confirmed it was a 3,800-year-old Egyptian scarab amulet, stunning archaeologists with its condition. That is a really cool rock, kid. On this Saudi Arabian beach, people found a World War II-era PBY Catalina seaplane riddled with over 300 bullet holes, stranded since 1960 after Bedouins mistook the American family on board for hostile aircraft. Inside an abandoned RAF Hanalei military facility was found a massive steam condenser with high-pressure water tubes still intact, alongside blast-resistant glass and Cold War-era testing chambers. Here, recovery crews hoisted a Boeing 747 cargo plane from Hong Kong's waters after it veered off the runway during landing and plunged into the sea in October 2025.
Theres Israeli Centurion Shut, the same tank that held off 1,400 Syrian tanks with just 177 during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, found rusting in the Golan Heights mist, one of history's most lopsided tank battles, frozen in metal. This metal detectorist found a massive World War II weapon dump in a European forest. Dozens of rifles, shells, and artillery rounds tossed by retreating soldiers in May 1945 and forgotten ever since. These luckiest guys dug up a buried steel safe and cracked it open to find stacks of vacuum-sealed US dollar bills inside. Whoever buried it never came back. Construction workers in Belgrade hit something they weren't expecting. A US-made AN-M44 aerial bomb 470 kilograms, sitting in the ground since Allied air raids on occupied Serbia in 1944. Still living after 80 years underground, packed with 250 kilograms of explosives. Here, metal detectorists hit a single signal and kept digging, pulling out 20 German World War II Stahlhelm helmets stacked in one pit, likely a hasty field dump from a retreating unit. A worker doing trail maintenance in Haywood County, North Carolina, found a massive carbon fiber and metal object half a mile into the woods. Too endangered to be natural, too clean to have crashed. Possibly space debris. A metal detectorist in North Africa cracked open a buried chest packed with silver jewelry, chains, pendants, and artifacts. An entire hoard of what appears to be ancient Egyptian silverwork chained shut underground. Pulled from the riverbed and crusted in muck, this is a Ruger Colorado Centennial Single 622 revolver. A collector's piece made in 1975 to commemorate 100 years of Colorado statehood. With only 15,000 ever produced, someone dumped a genuine rarity in the water. A prospecting team hit a historic abandoned gold mine with metal detectors following quartz vein signals deep into the ruins, and they really pulled out two massive gold nuggets, each weighing several kilograms, still fused to quartz rock. A Romanian metal detectorist pulled a perfectly intact medieval sword straight from the earth. Blade, fuller groove, and crossguard all still visible beneath centuries of rust. Divers found an M4 Sherman tank sitting 55 meters deep near Murmansk, still aboard the SS Thomas Donaldson, torpedoed by U-boat U-968 in 1945, just half a mile from port. The tank spent 69 years underwater before being hauled back up in 2014, and two more remain on the wreck. A Queensland family on a casual beach walk at Ocean Grove, Australia, stumbled over bones in the sand. Turns out a 20-million-year-old, one-ton whale fossil was just sitting there, half exposed. After 15 years of searching, two metal detectorists hit signals everywhere across a Somerset field. A massive hoard of Saxon and Norman coins buried nearly 1,000 years ago, worth up to £5 million. One coin could once buy 500 sheep. A crane pulled this rusted wreck from a ditch in Russia's Pskov region, the car of a Veliky resident who vanished without a trace in March 2017. It took months before anyone found where he'd gone. Emerging from Antarctic ice, the Pegasus C-121 tail has been sinking for 50 years. After 80 people survived a 1970 wipeout crash, the frozen wilderness claimed the wreckage, burying it deep within the shelf. A dog walker's morning stroll got a wild turn when he spotted a barnacle-encrusted military torpedo, around 3 meters long, on Gold Coast's main beach. It turned out it was an Australian Defence Force practice torpedo lost during a training drill months earlier. An entire field of 24 Cold War-era M47 Patton tanks rusting in rows near Sogel, Germany, sitting on a firing range that once swallowed a whole village demolished in 1942. Only those who rest in the old cemetery were able to stay here. Construction worker spotted unusual metal beneath coastal sands near Wanganui River in 2025. It was skunk, an 1875 steam locomotive abandoned in a beach shed after 1907, gradually swallowed by sand for over a century. A A Washington homeowner renovating their basement found a thick stack of $2 bills stuffed inside the wall. One of America's rarest banknotes, hoarded by a previous owner for unknown reasons. Beachgoers in Jupiter, Florida, spotted a car-sized yellow contraption in the surf and immediately assumed UFO. But it was actually a wave-powered desalinator capable of producing 9,500 liters of fresh water daily that broke loose from its anchor. A metal detectorist hit the jackpot at a ruined church, pulling up a knight's sword with its cruciform crossguard still intact. Medieval warriors were often buried near churches with their weapons, suggesting this blade once marked a warrior's grave. An underwater drone spotted a 1974 Camaro Z28 sitting 17 meters deep in Sebago Lake. No plates, windows down, a tent in the trunk. Best guess, it drove onto thin ice decades ago and vanished without a trace. Built in 1980 on stills off Florida's coast, the next finds are these alien-looking concrete domes that have been slowly sinking into the Gulf of Mexico since Hurricane Charlie shifted them off their foundation in 2004. Funded by Southern women in 1862, the CSS Georgia ironclad never fired a battle shot before its own crew scuttled it as a Sherman took Savannah. This 6.4-inch Brooke rifled cannon sat on the river bottom for 150 years until a harbor deepening project sent Navy divers to pull it out. The sole residents of tiny Kamenes Island off Brittany, France, got an unexpected discovery. A whole SpaceX nose cone, 2.5 meters wide, washed ashore covered in algae after drifting across the Atlantic for months. The next Urbex explorer found HMS Bronington half-submerged in Birkenhead docks. The 1953 mahogany-hulled minesweeper King Charles commanded for 10 months in 1976. It sank at its moorings in 2016, has been rotting there ever since, and nobody's rescued it yet. Kayakers on the Holston River in Knoxville, Tennessee, spotted something that didn't belong. A red Volvo sedan sitting half-submerged near Holston Hills Park. Most likely stolen and ditched overnight, the car remained undetected until someone was close enough to notice it. Police had to haul it straight out of the water. This drone caught an entire graveyard of Yak-28 supersonic jets rotting in the wilderness. Once the USSR's first nuclear-capable frontline supersonic bomber, capable of Mach 1.1 and 1,840 kilometers an hour, these machines just got left to rust after retirement. The Kiel Canal may connect two seas, but its narrow channel makes it more dangerous than open water. After a collision sent the M/V Uno straight to the bottom, salvage crews had to raise a fully sunken cargo ship from one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Ripping up floorboards in a 10-year-old house, a homeowner found stacks of 19th century bills hidden in a cavity, including an 1862 Civil War dollar and rare 3-cent notes. Police said finders keepers. This Urbex explorer stumbled onto a full military graveyard, with rows of decommissioned armored fighting vehicles rusting in a field outside, and an entire warehouse packed floor to ceiling with military trucks and APCs left to gather dust, completely forgotten. Divers pulled a 300-kilogram carved sea monster figurehead from the Baltic seabed near Ronneby, Sweden, sitting there since 1495 when Danish King Hans's flagship Gripsjunden caught fire. Lion ears, crocodile mouth, a person halfway down its throat. Nothing like it has ever been found. Here, a lucky explorer stumbled onto a hidden graveyard of around 50 classic British cars rotting in a Nottinghamshire forest. Daimlers, MG MGAs, Triumph GT6s, Riley 1.5s, all slowly disappearing under collapsing barns and decades of overgrowth. This Urbex Explorer cracked open 2 abandoned hovercrafts in Shanghai's Fengxian district. GPS systems, climate controls, Japanese toilets, still smelling new inside. Both just sitting on a remote coastal lot, likely dumped when the operating company went bankrupt. Pulled straight from a UK field, an 8-carat gold ring hallmarked 1903 Chester Assay office set with sapphires. Over 120 years underground, and the gold still glows like it never left a jeweler's place. When the regime collapsed in 2024, Russian forces scrambled to evacuate their Syrian air bases. But not everything made it out. MiG jets still sitting in desert hangars, going nowhere. A magnet fisher pulled a live artillery round from a Toledo river, then had to explain the whole situation to a very skeptical police officer on the spot. A Soviet-era MiG-21 sat forgotten in a Kamau residential street for over 40 years, put on display in 1945, then simply never collected when the managing office dissolved. But today, authorities finally moved it using a 20-ton crane. Discovered rotting at a reservoir in Bashkortostan, the paddle steamer Ufa, officially listed as built in 1953 in Hungary. Experts say the truth is wilder. The engine dates it to over 100 years old, making 1953 just a full reconstruction year. Hidden in dense Bahamian jungle, an explorer stumbled onto the ruins of a forgotten colonial-era fort with cannons still in position. A relic from the golden age of Caribbean piracy, undisturbed for centuries. An explorer found a graveyard of decommissioned Slovak Air Force Mi-series helicopters, still wearing their Slovak roundels, rotting in an overgrown field after the USSR's collapse ended their operational careers overnight. Buried under German soil for over 80 years, a metal detectorist unearthed this completely encrusted World War II German helmet, still holding its shape perfectly beneath all that dirt. This guy's drone spotted hidden in an American Southwest Canyon ancient cliff dwellings with 2,000-year-old petroglyphs, pottery shards, and basket maker-era atlatl carvings, right next to a modern metal door seamlessly built into the rock face. Near Utsa Lake in British Columbia, a rusted tugboat sits marooned on dry land atop an abandoned barge, a forgotten relic of the logging operations that followed the flooding of Nechako Reservoir in the 1950s. On Betio Island's Black Beach, a Japanese Type 89 129mm twin anti-aircraft gun from the brutal Battle of Tarawa still sits exactly where it was destroyed, rusting in the Pacific sun. Travelers driving through the Australian outback stumbled upon an entire graveyard of rusting World War II-era military tanks sitting abandoned in the scrubland. Completely unexpected and completely unguarded. Amateur divers off Caesarea spotted what they thought were toys. Turned out to be 2,000 gleaming 11th century gold coins from a Fatimids shipwreck. The largest underwater gold hoard ever found in the region, perfectly preserved. Beachgoers near Marina del Rey, California got an unexpected visitor in March 2023. A crewless motor cruiser riding the waves straight onto the sand, its owner nowhere to be found and zero explanation left behind. In 1957, Tulsa sealed a brand new Plymouth Belvedere in a nuclear blast-proof concrete vault as a 50-year time capsule prize. When unearthed in 2007, the vault had kept out nukes, but not groundwater, leaving the car completely rusted out. Divers in Portsmouth Harbor stumbled upon a sunken steel fishing trawler, still tethered to its mooring, buoy dragged clean underwater. The culprit was Storm Eunice, which sent England's all-time wind gust record at 196 kilometers an hour. Even a vessel built for open ocean conditions didn't stand a chance. It took a barge crane and a dive team just to scrape it off the harbor floor. Here, an explorer stumbled onto an abandoned property in the forest where someone had arranged dozens of dressed wigged mannequins staring straight ahead, posing like they're waiting for something. No explanation, no owner in sight. Hidden near Bristol Airport in Winford, this weathered RAF training jet sits forgotten in the grass. Once used for pilot instruction, its decaying frame now fascinates explorers seeking Cold War aviation relics. A photographer's daily dog walk on Vancouver Island turned into a reunion. Her wallet, lost 8 months earlier, washed up right at her feet near Tofino, cards and cash still inside, just a little bit corroded from the ocean.
Oh, I knew it would happen eventually.
A drone spotted this rusting hulk wedged so perfectly into a narrow river channel that the trees have completely closed in around it, hiding it from ground level entirely. Whatever got in here, it's not going anywhere. The sea left behind these rusting hulks, once the world's fourth largest lake at 68,000 kilometers squared. The Aral Sea shrank to 10% of its size after Soviet irrigation projects drained its feeding rivers. This find is the last survivor of the Lapetinsky phosphorite mine, a massive Takrath ERS 710 multi-bucket chain excavator left to rust since the mine shut down in 1993 when Soviet-era operations collapsed overnight. Someone unearthed a massive stash of Soviet rubles rotting underground. Worthless after the 1991 USSR collapse, this hidden fortune was abandoned by its owner and left to become a decaying paper. Divers found the 80-meter cargo ship Atlantis III sitting on the Greek seabed at 18 to 41 meters depth, still carrying its load of building materials. She hit the rocks of Darussa Islet in calm weather and sank in just 20 minutes. Someone cracked open a barn and found a full collection of Honda two-stroke motocross bikes sitting untouched. Race numbers still on the fairings, gathering dust like they'd just come off the track. A Cat 330C excavator spotted half submerged in a frozen Saskatchewan lake where it sat for 11 years, falling through the ice in March 2014 during a highway project. It became such a local landmark that people mourned when it was finally pulled out in 2025. When Richmond tore down its Confederate General Robert E. Lee statue after 2020 protests, workers found a 130-year-old time capsule in the pedestal. Historical records listed 60 items inside, including a photo of Lincoln's corpse, 6 damaged books, and a coin. Spotted rusting in an open field, a bizarre Soviet-era wind turbine prototype with a wagon wheel rotor design, nothing like modern turbines. Built during the USSR's experimental energy push, it was simply left standing when the project collapsed. Hunters in Yakutia dredged a perfectly curved mammoth tusk straight from a riverbed. Business as usual in Siberia, where melting permafrost keeps flushing out Ice Age remains. Woolly mammoths went extinct around 4,000 years ago. Around El Alamein, site of the pivotal 1942 battles, an estimated 20 million mines and unexploded shells still sit under the sand. Over 8,000 casualties since the war ended. But the desert continues to reveal its terrifying findings. U.S. peacekeepers near Pristina discovered 838 hand grenades, 430 fuses, 2 120mm mortars, and 11 RPG rockets hidden underground and stuffed inside tree stumps in a remote Kosovo village. All leftovers from the 1998 to 1999 war, corroded, but still dangerous. Deep in Suriname's Amazon rainforest near Kalalebo, a plane fuselage swallowed by jungle, moss-covered and slowly being reclaimed by the trees. No signs, no markers, just a forgotten wreck the forest is quietly digesting. This guy just found what appears to be an SR-71 Blackbird sitting alone in a dark, abandoned hangar. The world's fastest air-breathing jet, capable of Mach 3.3, just gathering dust somewhere. The next discovery is the rusted skeleton of Chippewa Lake's Ferris wheel and flying cages ride, swallowed by Ohio Forest since 1978. The park closed overnight and was simply never demolished. A good old tube quietly rusting in a French thicket. The Citroën HY van, produced from 1947 to 1981, was the backbone of French rural commerce for decades. Now, just a mossy find. Here's Rochester's beloved 46-meter dinner cruise ship, once hosting 535 guests per voyage, has been rotting on the Genesee River since 2004 when it struck a sunken tugboat. Its owner and nobody knows what's next. A Cold War-era F-101 Voodoo, nuclear-capable, supersonic, built in the 1950s, found stripped and rotting on a cracked desert airstrip in California. Nobody officially knows why it's there. This is the bow of a Soviet warship mounted onto a sheer cliff in a remote Arctic village that was once a classified Soviet naval base, one of the most striking war memorials you've never heard of. A massive steam locomotive found sitting beside a road in Winter Woods, still on the tracks with a boiler intact, going absolutely nowhere. Built to last a century, abandoned like it was worthless. Originally designed to ferry passengers along the St. Johns River between Jacksonville and St. Augustine, the Atlas hovercraft never made a single trip. Found sitting unfinished on a Florida lot, the ghost of an amphibious transit project that ran out of money. A 1914 ferry turned cargo ship, turned floating restaurant, turned Jacques Cartier replica, the Big Weasel has been frozen in Jordan Harbor's ice since 1997, survived arson in 2003, and still refuses to sink. Victorian-era sea forts built in the 1860s to stop a French invasion that never came. This is the Horse Sand Fort, which sits empty in the Solent to this day, 61 meters across, never having fired a shot in anger. A metal detectorist uncovered a giant World War II aerial bomb half buried in beach mud, still armed, still dangerous after 80 years under the tides. A bomb squad was called. It turned out to be one of at least 39 of these found on that beach. A 27-meter Canadian ferry named Upper Canada mysteriously appeared on Ohio's Black River in 2003 with no owner and no explanation. And now it just quietly sinks. This isn't a post-apocalyptic movie set. Wait, actually, it is. This discovery is Wade's Salvage in New Jersey, which served as the real filming location for Amazon's Fallout series in 2024. Scattered across a remote UK moorland, a World War II bomber's radical engine still sits where it crashed 80 years ago. one of hundreds of wartime wrecks rusting into Britain's hills. Divers off Sydney stumbled upon a World War II bomb sitting on the seafloor, completely encrusted in marine growth. Still unexploded, still technically live, just sitting there like it's nobody's problem. Somewhere out there, an abandoned warehouse is packed floor to ceiling with hundreds of stripped Yamahas, Hondas, Suzukis, and Kawasaki's. A classic bike collector's dream turned post-apocalyptic nightmare. This explorer cracked open an abandoned vending machine and found it still fully stocked. Coke, Sprite, and other old cans sitting untouched for over a decade. A group found a mysterious safe buried in the woods, spent the whole video dramatically working to open it, and found absolutely nothing inside. Might just be an elaborate geocache prank. Now welcome to an abandoned branch of NLB Tetonska Banka in Skopje, North Macedonia. Dust-covered cars still in the parking lot, information desk untouched, and whatever the explorer found inside, they weren't supposed to see. Moving into a new house comes with surprises. This family's attic was hiding a beautifully preserved vintage lace wedding dress left behind by whoever lived there before. In September 1917, German World War I mine-laying submarine UC-42 accidentally detonated one of its own mines near Cork Harbour, Ireland. But today, divers found the wreck remarkably intact, now home to very large conger eels. Among the ruins of abandoned Soviet sanatoriums on a lake's shore in Kazakhstan, an explorer found an unexpected surprise. A whole random rocket just sitting on a table. Just sitting in the rubble. Metal detecting in the jungle mountains of Nishihara, Okinawa, this finder uncovered a cluster of World War II mortar rounds still lying exactly where the Battle of Okinawa left them in 1945. This is dug up from the ground, a 1940s Ranger 44 cast iron cap gun. A beloved American kid's toy from the cowboy craze era, buried and forgotten for over 80 years.
This guy threw a magnet into a dark well with no real expectations, but the depths answered. Rising from the water was a legendary 14th century Topfhelm helmet. They started building a bridge without knowing what was waiting on the seabed. An American P-40 Kitty Hawk fighter with its machine guns still in pristine working condition. This treasure hunter definitely lived up to his title because he found a real chest filled with 20th century jewelry. In the 1950s, this area was known for crackdowns on smugglers. One of them most likely buried the box while returning from North Africa to avoid customs, but never came back for it. Abandoned cars from the 40s and 50s, an apocalyptic vibe. Did the cameraman accidentally stumble into Fallout? This Auto Necropolis is located near the city of Atlanta. It started as a car dismantling business, but over time, the area has become a museum with more than 4,000 pieces of art. Walking between rusted Ford Mustangs, Camaros, and Dodge Chargers feels like exploring a game map looking for loot. This meme finally became reality. Instead of diamonds, however, the lucky finders discovered 50 kilograms of gold ore. A huge abandoned boat stranded in the middle of nowhere, dozens of kilometers from the nearest water. Taiwanese authorities have no explanation, neither do we. This dagger was probably the last thing left of a Wehrmacht officer who knew that defeat was inevitable and buried his honor in the ground. For 180 million years, this place kept its secret. In 2022, British paleontologists finally uncovered it, the remains of an ichthyosaur. What's the strangest thing you've ever found in the forest? A fly agaric mushroom? Well, how about some abandoned M60 tanks from the Cold War? Let us know in the comments. This guy's metal detector must have been blessed by leprechauns or something. He actually found a pot of gold. While exploring the mountains of Utah, this drone discovered a giant concrete staircase to nowhere. Meet the Tintic Reduction Mill, a ghost factory over 100 years old. Can you imagine a family somewhere out there finding a safe full of money on the beach? Well, it's not these people. All they found was silica gel. At first, they thought it was just some forest cabin, but as they got closer, they realized it was actually a Soviet communications bunker. How about that?
This high of a ceiling.
Strolling through a quiet Belgian town, tourists suddenly came across an abandoned Airbus. But the real shock came when they entered the cabin. The plane had once been transformed into a cafe. It might be time to believe in alien life, because right now, something appears to be flying from space toward a secret American base. It looks like they were planning to test the craft, but once they noticed surveillance, they quickly moved it. How strange. In the German town of Hermesgeil, an old depot still holds 30 steam locomotives. They once carried both ordinary people and the most influential figures of their time, whose stories now sleep beside them. Horror movie directors are gonna fight over this discovery. Were people treated in this bunker or experimented on? Honestly, I'm not sure I even want to know. Picture this. You turn on a flashlight in the darkness and see a 20-meter fin whale skeleton, and behind that, 13 more skeletons, because this is an abandoned marine mammal museum. An operation to raise a South Korean ferry called the Sewol ended up being one of the most difficult salvage missions in history. Lifting the 6,800-ton vessel intact took 3 whole years. Perhaps nowhere in the world has preserved as many German secrets as the bunker at Mauerwald. This is where the Wehrmacht's high command gathered to plan some of the most important operations in World War II. This abandoned shipyard has already become the stuff of legend across Britain. From rusty fishing boats to relics from World War II, how did all of them end up there together? This ghost town looks like it was ripped straight out of Metro Exodus. Like this video if you agree. For decades, residents of a British town swam in this river without realizing that a rare early 19th century saber was resting at the bottom. A hidden entrance in the woods is strange enough, but inside it gets worse. Dark tunnels and clothing scattered across the floor. That eerie feeling creeps even through the screen. From 1952 to 1993, rumor has it that nuclear weapons were stored at RAF Woodbridge, so the guy who explored that bunker got lucky. Instead of uranium, he only found a few old vending machines. Still, even today, the area hides plenty of leftovers. Cartridges, ammunition, and mysterious powders, reminding visitors that this place isn't exactly safe. After Storm Debbie, people found many useful things along the coast, but the 18-meter yacht known as the Front Page might be the most expensive discovery of them all. In 2015, the world was shaken by a terrifying discovery. Some called it a Godzilla egg, others a newborn alien. Later, it turned out to be just a movie trailer.
Is unfolding across the world.
Welcome to the game Battlefield, or more precisely, the Spadia Dam RAF base. It's currently the only training ground in Europe for electronic warfare exercises. A fake airfield called Kolinsky has been built here, complete with old Soviet aircraft like the Mi-24 and MiG-19. A place where the past meets the future in a game of shadows and technology. The Living Coasts Aquarium was once home to marine animals rescued by volunteers, but the pandemic left behind nothing except lifeless figures. These divers seem to have found an actual crime scene at the bottom of the Red Sea. What those trucks were transporting is a mystery, and whoever disposed of them made sure it stayed that way. The engineers behind the British Chieftain tank forgot one thing. It blends into nature so well that it can simply be abandoned and not found again for 60 years. September 5th, 1909, the final working day of a steamship called the Eduard Bolin. As the result of an unfortunate accident, the sand captured it and has been holding it hostage ever since. One urban explorer nearly called Area 51 security when he found strange capsules with cars inside, but it was soon revealed to be a hangar belonging to a collector in Detroit. More than 70 rare vehicles are stored there, including a Cadillac wagon, one of only 2 in the world, the first closed-cab Cadillac Acola, a Ford Cobra, a Ford Cougar II, and many other automotive rarities. Who would have thought that on the island of Socotra, a T-34-85 tank has been heroically staring into the distance for 80 years? Very atmospheric. Most urban explorers find broken furniture and graffiti, but these people found a 60-meter Energia M rocket just sitting there waiting to be discovered. I guess it's time to reveal the secret. This aircraft lies beneath the dark waters of a flooded chalk quarry in Hemmoor, Germany. After rain in the UAE, you can sometimes find expensive luxury cars buried in the sand. Just a little fun fact for the future. For 80 years, Poland's Warta River concealed the last Valentine tank in Europe beneath its mud. Finding it was truly a stroke of luck. Hey guys, help me out. This video's author claims the metal object is a spaceship, but I'm not convinced. Tell me what you think in the comments. New tenants walked into their garage and gasped. There stood an unfinished Viper spacecraft from the series Battlestar Galactica. Could their landlord secretly be Captain Apollo? The MS World Discoverer traveled across countless countries and could have visited many more, but it struck a reef in Roderick Bay and has been frozen at a 46-degree angle ever since. You wouldn't think so at first glance, but this ship repair yard was once one of the most prosperous in the USSR. It's a place where giant passenger ships spent winters and cargo barges were repaired. But the collapse of the Soviet economy turned the former pride of the river fleet into rusted statues slowly sinking into the earth. The cliffs of Guzhou are usually home to bats, but they definitely didn't build a 5-story building. Inside the estate are several rooms with concrete reservoirs, along with a complex drainage and water supply system. Some believe rare salamanders were bred here, but that's just a theory. the people of Hebei no longer think George Martin writes fantasy. Not after an 18-meter dragon skeleton was found right in their backyard. The reefs of Cayo Lohia Beach have destroyed more ships than the Bermuda Triangle, but the story of the YOGN-42 is different. In 1950, it was intentionally grounded there because A, it's 80 meters long, and B, it's made of concrete, so scrapping it would have cost a fortune. Now, it sits on the reef like a silent warning to approaching ships. Finding something like this makes you only want to do one thing: move to the other side of the city, or better yet, the other side of the world. Witnesses don't tend to live long. Costa Rica is scattered with mysterious stone spheres. Some say prehistoric giants played soccer with them, but that theory is lacking evidence so far. This guy trusted his metal detector so much that he even hired an excavator to dig up whatever was down there. And let's just say it paid off way more than he expected. Apparently, there lived a very unlucky soldier during World War II. Not only was he given a motorcycle instead of an armored vehicle, it got stuck in a swamp until the next century. High in the Alps, carved right into the rock, someone found a door. Honestly, it'd be better if it led to Erebor instead of a secret military base with a cannon ready to fire. The real question isn't why this floor froze, it's why it's still frozen, even though the temperature is clearly above freezing. This Curtiss P-40L Warhawk spent 54 years underwater, yet it hasn't lost its former grandeur. For a moment, I thought this was a real cave filled with kryptonite. It turns out it's just an abandoned glass factory, which is still pretty awesome. During an underwater tour, divers accidentally discovered a passenger airplane. There were no reports of any crash in this area, which makes the discovery even stranger. If Albanian rebels hadn't stormed the area in 1997, no one might have ever discovered the secret Jader Air Base. It consists of 600 meters of tunnels and has become a graveyard for dozens of fighter jets from the communist era. What could be a more perfect filming location for a Subway Surfers series? By the way, this is in Belgium. In June 1942, a British P-40 Kitty Hawk disappeared without a trace over the western desert of Egypt. Its discovery decades later in such good condition is nothing short of a miracle. Do you know anything about a Boeing 737 that supposedly crash-landed in the woods in the 1960s? Well, that's the thing. No one does. He searched that cave for months with a metal detector while everyone laughed at him, until he uncovered stacks of gold bars. Judging by his outfit, this Sudanese boy wasn't out looking for treasure. Yet somehow, he spotted what nobody else noticed: gold ore hiding in plain sight. Hidden within the slate mines of North Wales are entire underground towns. They've survived despite groundwater flooding the tunnels. Miners once built these so they could live close to their work. It's little discoveries like this, but extremely valuable ones, that can really motivate someone to start diving. 200 million years ago, a Jurassic dinosaur walked toward water through a soft swamp, never imagining its footprints would remain preserved forever. Finding an old fun fair in the middle of the night is my personal nightmare. What's even stranger is that almost everything was left behind, as if the owners ran away in panic from something or someone. It's just a crocodile skeleton, you might say, but the shape of the skull doesn't match that of any crocodile. It's not an orca and it's not a mesosaur either, so what exactly is this? Art lovers should definitely wander through the canyons of Utah. They're literally covered with unique petroglyphs that were created between 500 and 1300 AD. Some people find bugs in the garden, others find gold with rubies. If you'd rather be the second one, hit subscribe. I've heard it brings good luck. It all started when his wife accidentally pulled out a brick and noticed a sheet of plywood behind it. That seemed suspicious, so the couple decided to keep dismantling the floor. When they reached a hidden door, their imagination was already painting pictures of secret tunnels and dark torture chambers. But instead of the mystery of the century, they found nothing but an old water pump. These can't sink because they're made of concrete, and they can't be forgotten because they still stand off the coast of Virginia, forming the Kipta Peak Breakwater. In September 2014, the joy of underwater hunters could probably be heard all across Croatia. They had discovered a Ju-87 R2 Stuka bomber that was shot down back in April 1941. On the summit of Daso de Gali, the giant ears of the Cold War still stand frozen in time. These 20-meter antennas were part of NATO's ACE High network, which was capable of transmitting orders even through nuclear fallout. Judging by this ship's loadout, it clearly wasn't planning on sinking anytime soon. This tugboat lies nose up, as if hoping someone will finally notice it. No one knows how long it's been there, but the engine still works. The Baofeng Temple in Hunan is a real cultural shock. It stands on a steep 1,200-meter cliff and amazes visitors with its murals and Buddhist statues. In 2011, this 60-meter circular structure completely disabled the electronic equipment of a ship sailing above it. Even today, researchers can't seem to explain the anomaly. In the middle of the Golan Heights lies Gilgal Rephaim, the Wheel of Giants. 40,000 tons of black basalt were arranged into perfect circles around 3000 BC, and yet the structure wasn't discovered until 1967. Fort Blunder serves as a reminder of why geography matters. Construction began in 1816 to defend against British invasions from Canada, but due to a mapping mistake, the fort was built on the wrong side of the border, making it completely useless. The Cold War pushed Soviet paranoia to the extreme. They even built gigantic Tesla coils to test aircraft resistance to electromagnetic pulses. There are more theories about this crater than seasons of Doctor Who. A uranium explosion? Maybe. A meteorite? Also possible. But one thing seems certain. It's not natural. Even though World War II ended long ago, surprises like this can still be found along its former front lines. Good thing this P-18 radar was discovered by an ordinary person today and not by a KGB officer in 1980. Whoever dragged it to the forest back then would have been arrested without question. An anti-ship missile was found literally at the edge of civilization. No one was expecting it to look so enormous in real life. After such an explosive discovery, you start to wonder whether swimming in the sea is really good for your health. Let's dive into a top-secret military base of former Yugoslavia. Even the guards reportedly didn't know what was being produced here, but it was definitely connected to something nuclear. Locals are afraid to even approach this boat. According to rumors, it appeared in the forest after a rainy night, and no one ever came back for it. The girlfriends of treasure hunters definitely know what true happiness looks like. What are the odds that a pile of snow turns out to be an abandoned bunker? Much higher than you'd think. His jewelry collection keeps growing with every walk along the beach. 30 years ago, Peter Mackey promised he would take his dogs to Antarctica in a 12-seat submarine. Unfortunately, all that remains of that dream today is the submarine's metal frame. Metal detectorists Adam and Lisa uncovered 2,584 silver coins in a Somerset field. Mint-condition pennies from King Harold II and William the Conqueror, valued at £5 million. This scuba diver pulled a 1-meter Iron Crusader sword from the Mediterranean off Israel's Carmel coast, a 900-year-old weapon encrusted in shells and marine organisms preserved in perfect condition. Magnet fishers pulled what looked like a rusty relic from the water until they realized it was a live military explosive. A bomb squad was called immediately to secure and safely dispose of the still active ordnance. Ripping shingles off a bedroom wall, this new homeowner uncovered a jaw-dropping wallpaper job. 1,600 vintage baseball cards from the 70s and 80s glued edge to edge by a 12-year-old fan decades ago. Tracking rumors 10 kilometers into the Tunisian desert led explorers to these abandoned American-made M48 Patton tanks. These massive Cold War relics remain stranded in the sand, fueling local legends about military graveyards. These explorers descended into a sealed Soviet-era bunker in the Baltics, finding blast doors, Cold War-era equipment, and corridors that hadn't seen daylight in decades still eerily intact underground. Divers from Shannonside Sub Aqua Club pulled Viking-era swords from Ireland's River Shannon, some dating back over 1,000 years to the 9th century, when Norse raiders dominated these very waterways. A barnacle-encrusted metal cylinder the size of a small car washed ashore at Greenhead Beach in Australia, later confirmed as a fuel tank from India's PSLV rocket that had been drifting in the Indian Ocean for years. Storm Chandra revealed 400-year-old oak timbers from the Fame of Horn, a Dutch merchant vessel that sank in 1631 while hauling salt from the Caribbean. The 6-meter hull section still had original wooden nails holding firm after 4 centuries. Recovery teams hauled this 1937 Ford Galaxy 500 from the icy depths after it spent 40 years submerged under the ice. Despite 4 decades underwater, the vintage vehicle successfully endured harsh conditions. Crowds flooded New Zealand's Muriwai Beach to witness what locals dubbed the Muriwai Monster. A massive, alien-looking blob washed ashore that turned out to be driftwood, completely smothered in gooseneck barnacles. This glowing, red-hot metallic ring, measuring 2.5 meters across and weighing 500 kilograms, slammed into Mukuku village in Kenya. The space agency confirmed it was a rocket separation ring that somehow survived atmospheric re-entry intact. Imagine diving into a submerged World War II warehouse. Resting 30 meters deep, the SS Thistlegorm still holds its original cargo of vintage motorcycles, trucks, and even armored vehicles. Venturing deep underground, these professionals discovered human bones over 2,000 years old nestled among stalactites and stalagmites, turning a spectacular cave system into an ancient burial mystery. Near Alaska's Upper Reed Lake, a solo hiker climbed a ridge and discovered B-29 bomber wreckage buried in glacier ice. Remnants of a 1957 training mission crash near Anchorage, now known as Bomber Glacier. A Queensland family stumbled over bones poking from the sand at Ocean Grove Beach in Australia. Paleontologists confirmed it was a 1-ton whale fossil dating back an astonishing 20 million years. A naval mine on a mountain? How? In 1992, Croatian soldiers defending Livno pushed naval mines off ridges against advancing forces, and one of these massive steel spheres still sits where it was abandoned over 30 years ago. These 1970s Futuro UFO houses are rare architectural relics of Taiwan's economic boom. Only 50 exist worldwide, featuring modular, circular interiors that still look modern, despite being abandoned and facing demolition. How about trekking through the remote Maine wilderness and stumbling upon two massive 15-meter steam locomotives? Abandoned in 1933, these iron giants were saved from collapse by a 1996 preservation effort. In a German forest was discovered a massive graveyard of abandoned Soviet anti-tank missile launchers. These Cold War relics and military crates sit exposed, being swallowed by nature. Divers in Canada's Lake Minnewanka found a 1928 Essex sedan sitting 60 meters deep. It fell through the ice during a photo shoot and has been preserved there for almost a century. Welcome to the Aral Sea Graveyard in Uzbekistan, where rusting fishing vessels sit stranded on bone-dry sand, once the fourth largest lake in the world, drained by Soviet cotton irrigation projects in the 1960s. During a home renovation, a lucky man dug up two cigar-shaped rolls of Depression-era cash from 1934 buried under his porch. Over $2,000 in pristine $10 and $20 bills, worth nearly $43,000 today. Next, guys reached a desolated island littered with decaying Soviet-era rockets and missile components scattered across an overgrown landscape, a forgotten Cold War testing ground slowly consumed by nature. A Philadelphia family spotted a weathered metal object on their roof that resembled an airplane window section. FAA investigators arrived, but its origin remains a mystery nobody can explain. In Utah's Grand Staircase Escalante, an explorer tracked down a mysterious boat cave hand-carved into sandstone by 1950s uranium prospectors Bill and Cliff, with a visitor logbook full of decades of signatures still inside. This 1959 BMW Isetta was rescued after 40 years in a forgotten barn. Restoration experts revived the iconic bubble car, incredibly getting it back on the road in just 2 days. Inside a hidden canyon, explorers stumbled upon ancient cliff dwellings built by ancestral Puebloan people hundreds of years ago. Stone walls and shelters still standing on the rocks. Archaeologists in Cairo used heavy machinery to pull this 8-meter statue from the mud. Likely depicting Ramesses II, the massive relic confirms a fabled temple once stood beneath the city. Explorers discovered decommissioned Cold War jets scattered across a former airfield now repurposed as a meadow. These rusting aircraft still feature intact bomb racks, parachute compartments, and mysterious refueling probes. In Nevada's desert, early 1900s pickup trucks with original engines and wooden seats sit untouched. Nearby, a 1917 Fairbanks Morse engine once pumped water for a mining settlement that simply vanished into the sand. While exploring woods near a river, a hiker discovered this Texas Army rocket from Fort Hood. Though it looks combat-ready, it's actually a non-functional training model left behind. These professional explorers rafted into a flooded, abandoned mine and discovered walls coated in blue-green copper sulfate formations hanging like alien icicles, while the water below glowed blood red from heavy iron oxide deposits. In a Czech forest, a man's single grenade discovery triggered a weekend-long bomb squad operation. Pyrotechnicians unearthed over 300 Soviet World War II grenades plus 60 kilograms of infantry ammunition buried since 1945. Opened in 1970, Kenya's Longonot Earth Station once linked East Africa to the world. Now desolate, these massive abandoned satellites stand as silent monuments to an era of bygone technology. Here, explorers stumbled upon a battle-worn M47 Patton tank abandoned in the bushes. Covered in graffiti, this Cold War beast remains right where it seemed to have lost its battle. At a derelict airfield, aviation enthusiasts discovered the Mi-2 helicopter with its tires fused to the earth by roots that grew around the wheels, locking this vintage Soviet-era machine in place for years. Near a remote lake, a man found a graveyard of 1950s Buicks and Oldsmobiles. Sadly, these rotted relics, like the Roadmaster, are being reclaimed by nature after decades of scavenging. This Thorpe T-18 is part of an incredible 17-aircraft barn find. After decades in storage, this experimental plane and other vintage flyers are finally being brought back to light. These meteors are famous Soviet-era hydrofoil boats now resting permanently on land. Once high-speed kings of the river, they now form a surreal, rusting graveyard of forgotten maritime history. This kayaker paddled right up to the USS Ling, a 95-meter World War II Belau-class submarine stuck in New Jersey's river mud since Hurricane Sandy severed its dock in 2012, now rusting and abandoned. Explorers discovered a massive military graveyard filled with Cold War-era hardware from Land Rovers to helicopters. The site even holds active weapons systems, including rockets and vehicles with still functioning mechanical decks. Built between 1940 and 1941, these abandoned pillboxes in Poland were part of the Soviet Molotov line. The bunkers feature heavy machine gun emplacements and anti-tank guns designed to defend against advancing forces. At an abandoned Swedish military site on the Cold War Kalix Line, explorers found World War II 15-centimeter howitzers still on their mounts and a full-scale wooden Tiger I tank replica built from chipboard alongside a crash-damaged jet with faded insignia. These UFO-shaped concrete structures built in 1982 for computer manufacturing were abandoned after the company went bankrupt, leaving flying saucer buildings and underground tunnels decaying in the desert for over 40 years. After hours of painstaking excavation, treasure hunters discovered what was hidden beneath. 2 ancient pots filled with coins from a lost civilization, deliberately buried by whoever stashed this fortune centuries ago. On Armenia's Mount Aragats sits the abandoned ROT-54, a 54-meter Soviet radio telescope that once searched for extraterrestrial signals, mothballed since 2012 after a control arm failure left it frozen in place. In Vietnam, explorers discovered a decaying amusement park where a dragon pavilion with shattered aquarium tunnels towers over a dry lake. Fairy tale cottages and jungle-swallowed slides are now being reclaimed by a rainforest-like wilderness. This Caterpillar D8H bulldozer was left for dead for over 3 decades. But despite the rust, the massive engine roared back to life after some minor repairs. What about finding the TSS Duke of Lancaster, a 1950s passenger ferry beached in New Wales for over 20 years? And seeing inside cafeterias with menus still intact, a cinema with numbered seats, and 1981 newspapers on decks since closure. This woman, returning from work, discovered a tractor half submerged in a quiet river. Clad in rust and weeds, the machine appears to have been claimed by the water years ago, leaving its origin a mystery. After 53 years underwater, a 1971 Jet Commander finally discovered 60 meters deep in Vermont's Lake Champlain. An underwater drone captured ghostly footage of the broken jet, still wearing its original red and black paint scheme. Triggered by an intense metal detector signal, explorers unearthed an ancient chest hidden beneath heavy stones. Inside, they discovered finely crafted antique crosses and coins with remarkably preserved historical engravings. Abandoned for over 20 years, this rare Sidewinder jet boat was found in total disrepair, but after a deep clean, its massive Oldsmobile 455 engine successfully roared back to life. What looks like a crashed flying saucer from the road is actually a Cold War missile silo. This Arizona site once housed a Titan II nuclear missile ready for launch. In Nevada, explorers discovered a graffiti-covered vintage plane, possibly an old Douglas model. Despite its stripped interior and missing avionics, the roadside wreck remains a desert landmark. Stumbled upon via Google Maps, this massive vessel sits stranded deep in a forest like a ghost right nearby the decaying concrete of an abandoned mine. Aviation enthusiasts rescued a 1944 Douglas C-47 Skytrain from a Kansas aircraft boneyard and hauled it to Ottawa Airport for restoration. This legendary World War II transport that dropped paratroopers on D-Day saved from rusting into oblivion. This rare German Lanz Bulldog tractor, famous for its single-cylinder hot bulb engine that could run on virtually any fuel from vegetable oil to crude, was found rusting and awaiting restoration. The 77-meter ghost ship Alta drifted unmanned across the Atlantic for over a year after crew evacuation near Bermuda, finally washing up on Ireland's coast with its cargo still a mystery. Found near the ruins of St. John Vianney, this car has been completely overtaken by nature. The rusted, fern-covered chassis is so decayed that its original model remains a mystery. Freedivers found a 3.4-meter Italian marble crucifix sitting 7 meters deep in Lake Michigan, sunk in 1962 by a local dive group as a tribute to lives lost on the water. Joshua Tree's Lost Horse Mine, discovered in 1893, still has its rare Fraser and Chalmers 10-stamp mill fully intact, a site that produced 10,000 ounces of gold and 16,000 ounces of silver. Archaeologists mapped 16 dugout canoes buried in Wisconsin's Lake Mendota. The oldest carved 5,200 years ago, predating the pyramids. An ancient parking lot where indigenous travelers shared watercraft for millennia. Record low Baltic sea levels in Stockholm exposed the wooden hull of a 17th century Swedish Navy warship deliberately sunk around 1640 to form a bridge foundation, now visible for the first time in decades. This beachgoer stumbled upon something bizarre, an entire bucket packed with toothbrushes and a weird handwritten letter with no explanation for how either got there. Deep in Algeria's Sahara, explorers stumbled upon Tassili Najer, a sprawling open-air gallery of over 15,000 prehistoric rock drawings up to 12,000 years old, depicting elephants, giraffes, and a once green desert. Beneath the waves, divers discovered forgotten train cars. Once thundering across tracks, these rusted carriages have become an artificial reef. At this Nigerian airport, retired jets are literally torn to pieces. Dozens of planes sit near active runways, waiting for engineers to recycle their valuable remains. This Maginot Line fort withstood a brutal 1940 German assault. After heavy 88mm fire holed its concrete blocks, the besieged garrison was finally forced to surrender. Deep in this forest, someone actually stumbled upon an abandoned cargo helicopter sitting among the trees with its rotors still attached. Tracking satellite leads, an explorer stumbled upon these hidden ancestral Puebloan cliff dwellings. Tucked high in a desert canyon, the 1,000-year-old ruins still preserve ancient tools and child-sized handprints. In Austria's woods near Bad Voslau, an explorer found the Türkenbrunnen, a domed stone structure from around 1800 hiding a 61.5-meter underground tunnel leading to a secret spring chamber. These World War II archaeologists pulled anti-tank mines, grenades, and corroded ammunition from a waterlogged forest floor where heavy fighting once raged over 80 years ago. Why are dozens of J-5 and J-6 fighter jets rotting in a Guangzhou forest? These 12.5-meter Chinese clones, alongside Soviet-era transports, are currently disappearing under decades of jungle growth. That 1956 school bus is decaying at an 1870s gold mine. This 10-meter relic survived a 2012 inferno that vaporized everything else, standing as the site's lone charred survivor. Check out Michigan's legendary Shoe Tree that was once heavy with thousands of lost souls. Recently, authorities cut back this landmark for safety, and its history was nearly lost. A steep Iowa ravine hides a 1960 Impala resting completely upside down. Dozens of 5-meter mid-century classics are currently being swallowed by the earth in this vertical automotive graveyard. Behind an iron door at a 12th century Irish church, explorers found an abandoned family crypt with 7 ornate coffins carved with unicorns and helmets, and one left open with fresh flowers inside. Imagine relaxing at home when a 0.7-kilogram chunk of space junk tears through your roof. This cylindrical alloy from the International Space Station smashed right through 2 floors. One magnet drop into a Norfolk canal pulled up rusted firearms and ammunition, turning a casual magnet fishing session into an immediate call to the police. Right here, Australian farmers heard a massive boom and weeks later found 3-meter charred chunks of a SpaceX Crew 1 Dragon trunk embedded in their sheep paddocks. And that was the last find for today. Drop a comment and tell us which discovery blew your mind the most. And don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Just beat the crap out of them. See you in the next video. Bye.